In this video, you're going to learn more about Scott's Nursery selection of perennials. It's one of the major things that we carry, and they're available throughout the planting season, early spring to late in the fall.
So we have a huge selection of perennials at Scott's, and we try to divide them up by area. So we have a lot, in this section there's a lot of shade. There's a lot of shade perennials in this section, like we have lungwort over here with the spotted leaves over there. And then we have a really nice selection of these ferns. There's ostrich fern down here, and we have this ostrich feather fern, really nice. And then we have a great selection of, there's astilbes and hosta.
Astilbe are one of the ones that flower freely and have a finer leaf. So many people collect hosta that, you know, it wouldn't be fair if we didn't mention the hosta, because the hosta selection is endless. There's probably 1,000 or more varieties that are available in hosta. Not that we carry 1,000 at one time, but we try to have the latest and the more popular ones.
So many people collect them too.
Yes.
So many people are into collecting different hostas. We have a lot more than this. This is just one of the smaller ones that we carry, but there's lots of great varieties on this other side over here. These are all hosta along here, but we probably grow 40 or 50 varieties here anyway.
Yes, we would have easily, yeah. And all different heights, you know, from something that would grow almost 2.5, 3 feet to something that would be as compact as the little one that might only, you know, be less than 8, 10 inches.
Yeah, so, and there's you can get different heights to suit all different situations. So, and moisture levels too. Like if you have a really wet area, there's some perennials that work really well for that. Or
keep in mind when you're choosing perennials that perennials are plants that live year after year, and they include some biennials, which are plants that reseed themselves, and often you wouldn't realize that they come year after year, but it's not that they're continuously the same plant. It's a reseeding that brings them back. So the collection is ones that you put in. They're not necessarily free from work, because periodically you separate them, fertilize them, and but really give you a lot of enjoyment. Here we have hens and chicks on the side, the beautiful little rock garden plant that stays low.
People do lots of neat things with those, like they'll plant old boots, and you can do all kinds of stuff with those.
They're kind of like the succulents that are really popular these days. And another one of the more popular perennials is a group of sedum, different heights, different colors, and again give you that same effect, low, and they tolerate dry conditions. They actually do rooftops with sedums in some areas. A lot of the perennials take a few years to really achieve their best, but getting a start is where we have this collection of different ones.
These would be more like a first year plant, but by the third year, that's when they really take off. Like about your third year on most all perennials is when they really start to perform for you. This is a fall sunflower here, summer sun. But most of the ones that we grow in our selection are all very hardy for this area.
We try to stay with hardy ones, but everybody wants to grow the one that, you know, that they can't. That's just
more
the nature
of a challenge,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And you have daisies and the old favorite lupins that.
These are your lupins you used to see everywhere on the hills, but now these are.
It would be a mixture of colors that you don't always. What we're seeing here is mostly the blue, but there's pinks and yellows and whites, and just a tremendous range in those.
The sea thrift here, these are really popular with the bees. These are a great pollinator, and they have an early spring flower.
See a honeybee we're disturbing who's working with us right now. On this side, a group of peonies. without a doubt a plant worth waiting for. But they do take time. You know, if you're a peony lover, don't get excited if they don't look fantastic. It takes them a few years.
These are just starting out, so they're not showing.
If you think they're a little slow, don't move them, because they don't like it when you disturb them. So it takes them a while to get back to the growth again. Grasses have become extremely popular. They're used both, commercially, but resident homeowners are using them as just a texture change in a perennial bed. You can put a taller one even at the front of a bed, and sometimes give your perennial garden a bit more depth by adding some of the many grasses.
Jeanette line two.
There are more grasses available than, and a lot of them are really hardy in our area.
These give you a sound effect too in your gardens. Once the wind gets going,
much
you get
like the water, like a water pond. You get the rustle of, and they're nice when they seed in the fall, going into the winter.
Yeah, these columbines are beautiful. These have been really showy. These have been in flower for a month or more now, and they look
yes, I would say yes.
Great.
What's really unusual is what is popular in perennials is often the ones that have been around. You know, they keep adding new varieties, but if you had a gardener's book from the start of the 1900s, they'd mention a lot of the same names that we're still growing today, but it may be that there's enhancements or new varieties out there. Some of the new varieties aren't any nicer than the old originals, but there's certainly a great collection of them. When we start to switch over here, we're looking at some iris. Iris are a plant that that the tuber lays very close to the surface, and they can be grown in masses, and when they some of the larger ones flower, it's just they can be breathtaking. So it's a collection of plants that are really an enjoyment for people. And as I said, what's old is often as delphinium are flowers that make really large plants in your garden. You'd put them in the back of a perennial border, and they could be anchor plants for you with a lot of really vivid color. As we start on past here, we're looking at some wonderful daylilies. Daylilies used to be mostly yellow and orange, and today the colors are spectacular. Jen, what would you call this little fella here?
This is Voodoo Dancer, but you can just see the color just starting on this one. It's really dark. It's got a dark purple with yellow markings in the throat, and the colors are amazing now compared to what they used to be.
The blossoms are a bit heavier than the earlier ones, and they can be used as a cut flower, or you can float a particular bloom in water, but the shades are just tremendous nowadays. Not to take away from the old yellow, orange ones that are still
Stella d'Or is probably still the most popular daylily.
Oh, it is,
ones,
without a doubt. It stays low, and it has that nice grass-like effect.
Speaking of Stella d'Or, there he is right there.
And when you're choosing perennials, you usually choose them by flowering times, heights, and textures. So you come up with a combination that works for you by the colors that you like best. And some of the colors that people are searching for in perennials are often blues that aren't as easy to come by. And some of the plants, like a blue delphinium, would be just a spectacular plant in the garden. As we move on down, we're going to see some perennial geraniums. Another way to get some of those blues in your garden. One of the really popular ones would be coneflower. Coneflowers.
There's an orange one up here.
Yes, here's one in blossom, and some of the new ones really most people think of a mauve or a pink, but the new ones are really they're really a bit sharper color.
There's one that we carry that changes 2 or 3 times through the season.
That's
beautiful.
right. It's one of the newer ones that have been added to the collection. The perennial geranium unlike the annual or the geraniums that we grow from cuttings for seasonal, these ones winter very well for most people, and you'll find that they form a large carpet once they're established well, and you know you expect them to come back. There's little plants like silver mound, which they don't blossom, but the foliage really
They have great color contrast
yeah.
with the other plant material. Yeah.
Texture and color, a little bit of a fragrance in the blossom. We would have some we have some salvia nearby. There's some lavender here where you get the fragrance of the plant as well as the bloom. A lot of people like to dry some of it and put it in their china cabinet or what have you, and just
the biggest thing I think with perennials is that you need to plan more than you do your annual beds, because your perennials flower at different times, and you want to think it out more than if you're planting a bed of annuals. You don't have to worry they flower all summer, but with the perennials you need to think more about your height and flower time so that you get a good combination through your garden.
That's right. It takes a few years of trial and error to get to where you want to be, but you'll see some spectacular shows with and such a color texture change that it's really it's a hobby and a satisfying hobby with the results.
You get to go out and see what's new every day and what's changing so quickly.
Exactly.
A lot different than growing annuals. So.
From very early in the spring until the latter part of summer, we have a really terrific choice, and it changes throughout the season. One of the largest things that we produce are the perennial collection.
And if you want to learn more, go to scottsnursery.tv.